My name's Eric Baker, and I'm an educational coordinator at NYU College of Dentistry, and I'm the course director for the Human Gross Anatomy course.
Can you quickly tell us the history, how it came that you're teaching with these plastinets and slices here?
Well, it was very fortuitous events that led to that. We were dissecting at one point in time, and we realized that we just weren't getting the students to learn what they needed to learn dissecting. And we happened to run into Professor Von Hagens, and we talked to him about plastinets, and we realized that we could save a tremendous amount of time that we would normally spend dissecting and cleaning, actually teaching students with already plastinated materials.
What were the problems dissecting? Because to me, it appears that this dissection is a holy grail.
Well, it is. I love to dissect. And I was actually a little bit hesitant to change at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized it was my own preference, that in the sense that they're going to be dissectors, they're becoming dentists. And so a tremendous amount of time was spent with them dissecting, and generally only one or two students were actually interested enough to spend the time. Students would stand in the background and learn nothing during that period of time. It was a tremendous waste of their time. So now we have the plastinations here, which are already dissected, wonderful exposures that you would seldom see in a dissecting lab. And instead of dissecting, they can look at these plastinations, they can talk about it, and we're just maximizing their time.
How did this change process happen from dissecting to working with plastinates? What were the hard parts there?
The hard parts were convincing other faculty that you don't need to dissect to teach anatomy, that you can actually use prosected material and slices conjointly to convey three-dimensionality. A lot of people would say, oh, well, you can't experience the three-dimensional if you're not dissecting. And that's a total falsehood. You certainly can.
Can you tell us a little bit how you work today with these specimens and the slices?
Well, we use them together. I mean, the students will come in and they'll have a list of structures they not only need to identify, but they need to appreciate in terms of relationship to other structures. So they'll come in and they'll look at a plastinated specimen, and they'll look at a slice, and they'll look at a slice from different perspectives, a sagittal section, a coronal section, a horizontal section, and they'll appreciate the three-dimensionality of a structure, what's medial, what's lateral, superior, inferior, and they put it all together. They don't use anything independently, really. They use it all together.
Are there aspects or things that you can learn much better with plastinates than by dissecting?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, if you're in a dissecting lab, and let's say you've got 40 cadavers in a room, you're certainly going to see every single structure you would like to see on at least one of those cadavers. But on these specimens here, they're there. We know they're there. We can go find the smallest ganglia that we would like to show to students, and it's there, beautifully displayed with all its relationships. Whereas if we were in a dissecting room, we'd be hunting for that specimen amongst all those dissections, and we might find it and we might not find it. With the plastinations and slices, we know we have the structure to show the student.
How was the students' reaction when you started using these specimens here?
Initially, some were a little bit apprehensive because, as you mentioned, there's the concept that, oh, dissecting is the holy grail. It's a rite of passage that you must go through. Well, we've proved that isn't the case. The students love this course. They love working with the plastinations. They love working with the slices. They're very enthusiastic about their anatomy program here.
How is the learning quality? Do you have some feedback? Can you compare? Are they better now or worse?
The students certainly seem to be learning the anatomy better than they had in the past, and I would attribute that all to the slices and plastinations that we use.
If you talk to your colleagues, anatomy teachers, you mentioned that they are critical. What do you tell them when you talk with professionals?
What do I tell them? I tell them that, you know, it works for us. It works for us. And I suggest that, you know, I tell them, oh, you should always have a slice in the dissecting lab. I mean, if they're adamant that they must dissect and have a cadaver, it's like, yeah, but you should have these slices that you could match up to the cadaver and show these structures to the students. And some of them say yes, and others are just hesitant. They're hesitant to change.
How do you see the future of teaching anatomy? Will this be standard one day?
I think it really depends on the program. I mean, this paradigm we have here, we've modified to specifically fit the needs of NYU College of Dentistry students. I think using the slices should be standard. I mean, that goes without hesitation. Whether a program needs to dissect or not to fully educate their students, that's really up to the people within that program. You know, I mean, there's different anatomy programs. I mean, we teach head and neck anatomy for dentists. There's anatomy for physical therapists. Maybe they feel the need to bend joints and pull muscles and see tendons move. We don't need that here. Perhaps. I have anatomists that have been teaching anatomy for 35 plus years, and when they look at a slice and they really study it, they'll have this sudden realization that, my God, I've never seen this before. This is what it really looks like. After 35 years of teaching anatomy, they're seeing structures and relationships that they've never seen before. Our students are seeing it their first time through. I mean, that's the thing that strikes me the most.
Do you have anything to add? Or?
I don't. I mean, on a personal note, I just love using these slices for the reason I've described. You can show everything. You're able to teach the student all the relationships. You know, you're not losing anything in the dissecting process. You have it all there. I'm very enthusiastic about these slices, and I've incorporated them into my lectures, into my labs. They make the perfect questions for practical examinations. I couldn't teach this class without slices now. I see what I see.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this beautiful slice. You see the condyle of the mandible with the lateral pterygoid going over to the lateral pterygoid plate of the sphenoid bone. It's quite amazing. Maxillary sinuses. So you can see osteological elements, muscular elements, nervous elements with the cerebellum sitting here in the posterior cranial fossa. Sigmoid sinuses, mastoid air cells. Quite an amazing set of features to see in one presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, we teach in very small groups, and we teach frequently, but not for great periods of time. The students will come in, they'll look at the material, then they'll go home and review it, study it, and then they'll come back again, and we'll progress, and we keep building and building. So rather than coming in for a prolonged 4-hour lab where they burn out and they cease to take in information, we give it to them in brief but frequent periods.
How many plastinates does a med school need to be able to teach what you want to teach?
I do not know how many plastinates a medical school would need to teach what we teach. That would be sort of dependent on their class size.